Hello my dear friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I'm going to be wrapping up the second part of August today. I'm going to be talking about the 7 books that I read in the second part of August. As usual, I'm going to link up in the cards the first part of the August wrap-up that I did already, and today we're going to talk about all the books that I managed to finish in the second part of August. All of them were kind of, or at least most of them were kind of longish books, so I knew that I really had to take my time with them, specifically with the first one that I'm going to discuss. And I had an overall good experience with most of them. It was only kind of disappointing to me that one of my most anticipated releases of the year, a debut novel, was a miss for me, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. So let's just go ahead and dive into the books because I've got a lot of thoughts. So the first book I'm going to talk about is one that I'm not going to go into too much detail about because it's the third book within a series. I already spoke about the other 2 books in my previous wrap-ups. I read Jade City in July, and in the first part of August I read Jade War. I was really captivated by the urban fantasy world that Fonda has created within these 3 books, and the third book was an absolute favorite of mine. I did not want this story to end. I was already so immersed into the world, into this family, into the magic, and into all of the problematic situations that they all encountered, and I just wanted to stay with them for a while longer, even though the book was quite long. Jade Legacy, I'm not sure, I think it's near 700 pages if I'm not mistaken, so it was quite long. But I really loved every single second of the audiobook of this book. I gave it 5 stars, obviously. I think that this is a marvelous series, and I think that more people should be reading them. I don't know, I only heard Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life talk about this series, at least maybe the kind of booktubers that I follow, they don't read these kinds of books, or maybe I just have been sleeping on this series. I don't know what it is, but I'm just so happy that Crystal kind of put these books on my radar because of her recommendation. So thank you so much, Crystal, for this. I really love this series, and I'm really going to try to make it a point to try to find more series like this because I really love this one. The next book I'm going to talk about is unfortunately my one disappointment of the later part of August. It's The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. This book I really had such high expectations for because when I saw the cover and the blurb for it at the start of the year, I think, and I put it on my TBR, I was really looking forward to read something that I had never read. This book centers on 2 characters who are both Native American, and the representation for this community is just not, it's almost non-existent within the romance community. So I just wanted to read a book that will let me into that world and would let me connect with those characters and learn more about their culture and their struggles and their love for one another. I just wanted so much out of this book. Maybe it's my fault that I just had such high expectations of it, and I was majorly disappointed when I read it. Basically, I have this Goodreads review where I think I did a good job for myself, at least, to kind of note down what were the pros and cons for myself with this book. The parts that I liked about it is that the writing was really good. It was really solid. There were quite a few moments where I was noticing how much it flows and how easy it is for me to get through the story. And then at the same time, there were quite a few funny moments where I was really giggling and kind of appreciating the humor of the author, so I really appreciated that within the book. Also, obviously, the representation and own voices for the indigenous community is something that I was really looking forward to, and it was something that I did get parts of but not too much of, so I wanted to see more of that. And then the thing that I also really liked is some of the side characters. I connected with them a lot, and their humor, and their bringing something fresh to the story. And the hero was really nice. He was lovely, really lovely. But I had some gripes with how his character is set up within the story, and this is probably where my kind of disappointments start to show. First of all, I think So to go into the plot of the story, we've got a heroine who is part indigenous, part white, and she wants to find a job in accounting. She has been putting out her resume everywhere, but she always gets a no, and she believes that it's because she has marked down that she is indigenous in her resume. So she decides to change that to white, and then once she changes that, she immediately gets a response and someone invites her for an interview. So she starts off with a little white lie. So she's part white, but she kind of is hiding part of her identity because she wants to get this job so badly. She goes on this interview and it just starts off spiraling how many lies she starts to tell. She meets the hero there. He's working at this company where she gets hired as well. And it's just lie after lie after lie that she tells, where she has so many opportunities to come clean, but she just doesn't. And that is the part that was so disappointing to me, because it's just not okay to excuse your own lies in your own head and thinking that, yeah, it's just because I cannot do this or I cannot say that or whatever. It just doesn't make sense that you can continue lying and thinking that you're going to be able to build relationships with whoever, whether it be your employer, your future husband, your friends, or whatever. Just everyone was so disappointed in her in the end, because obviously she was lying the whole time about so many things. What will you expect in such situations? So that, I think, was my major gripe with the book, that it just centered on too many lies and too many secrets and too many opportunities for miscommunication because of the way that the heroine was behaving and was communicating with everyone in the book. So that was my major kind of no-no for this book. Also, because this was happening the whole time, I could not find it in me to kind of find any kind of compassion for the heroine or any kind of I could not relate to her at all, and that really bothered me, because at the start of the book, just the first part where she's explaining how difficult it is for her to find a job because of who she is and how she has presented herself in her resume, I really related to that. I was really hoping to see more of how she is dealing with it, but really trying to prove herself to those people who did not believe in her in the first place, and really show them, like, this is something that you're doing wrong. It's not something that I'm doing wrong. It's not, so you're making me have to lie in the first place so you can invite me to an interview. So that part, I wanted to see that play out. I didn't want her to continue lying to present herself as someone whom she's not. So that was something that was really disappointing to me. And then one thing that I have to say is that, again, while the hero is quite lovely, he was really two-dimensional. He was really written into the story to kind of listen to her, to kind of respond to her, and then we didn't find out a lot about him at all. And then in the end, he obviously got upset because of all of the lies, but we really didn't get why he fell in love with her in the first place. How is it that he finds her so appealing when he knows, because he admits that he knows for a lot of the parts where she was lying that she was lying. Why are you liking someone who lies to you all the time? What is the reason behind you falling in love with this person? So that was something that was really disappointing to me as well. And yeah, essentially, I don't know if anyone who hasn't read this book is going to see what I'm talking about here, and I probably will ruin it for people who haven't read it before. But honestly, I really hope that this author writes more books where she just focuses on other things within the plot. Specifically, if she's going to stick to romance, focus on the romance, on why people fall in love. Why is it that these two people like each other and have fallen in love with each other? And the conflict should be something that doesn't rely so much on lies, secret keeping, or miscommunication. It should be sometimes just circumstances. Like, for example, this was an office romance. The office romance trope, the most common thing that doesn't work within those romances, at least for like real life relationships, is if the company says we don't like fraternization, so we don't like people having relationships together, this is your conflict there. It's not that difficult. So I think that there's plenty of ground to work with. She has a talent for writing. I do believe that she is a great writer because like I mentioned, I did find that the writing was quite good. It's just that the story, the plot, the setup, all of the tropes that she has taken within this book to kind of make it work did not work for me. So unfortunately, I gave this book 2 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Unraveling by Keeland. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first thriller that this author has written. I've read quite a few of the romance books by this author and I've mostly enjoyed them. Most of them I've given 4 stars, so I really wanted to try out this thriller by Keeland and I enjoyed it. It was not bad. I think that some of the parts within the book, probably for some seasoned thriller readers, might be a bit redundant or maybe would be predictable, but I don't read very many thrillers, maybe 3 or 4 a year, and for me it was a very enjoyable thriller. It centers on a therapist who has lost her husband and she is grieving, and we're finding out that there is something that she has done that has made the medical committee revoke her license for a year, and she's going to therapy herself so that she can prove that she can get her license back so she can practice again. And then one day when she's going to her therapist, she notices a person who is kind of part of her whole tragedy, of her losing her husband. She sees this guy, he was part of this tragedy and he was also very affected by what had happened, and she sees that he's happy, he's laughing, and he's having this good time when she sees him, and she's like, how is it that I'm so miserable? How is it that I cannot move on with my life? And this guy is just fine. He seems fine, he looks fine, he's behaving like he's happy. So she starts following him and observing him and wants to know what his deal is. And I'm going to leave it off at that because there's quite a few twists and turns, there's quite a few interesting developments within the plot. There is a slight kind of romantic part within the book, and in the end there is like this major twist as well. So yeah, it was thrilling. It was something that kept me occupied while I was reading it. I did not drift off. I did not feel like I was bored throughout the story. So yeah, I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. The next book has a 5-star rating written all over it. It had it already before I read it. It's The Vows by Jessica Joyce. This book is a second chance romance. So second chance romances are one of my favorite books if they're written really well. And also it has a wedding theme, something that I really tend to enjoy as well. It kind of really reminded me of Forget Me Not by Judy Soto, a book that I gave 5 stars and was a favorite of mine of last year. So I kind of knew that already, like when I was reading it and already maybe at the 30% mark, I kind of knew that this was going to be a 5-star read for me. We've got a hero and heroine who were childhood best friends. And they were a group of 3, actually, 2 guys and a girl, and it's the 2 of them. They started having a relationship when they were quite young. They were teenagers and they kind of grew up together, moved together to study together, and they just had this amazing romance together as best friends. But then something happened. They kind of grew apart because of certain issues that the hero was dealing with, and them really not being able to communicate their problems with the conflict that they had. So they kind of drifted apart and the heroine called it quits. She moved away and she started a career for herself, and yeah, they still remained best friends with the other guy. And that is where their reunion comes in, because the other guy is going to get married, and the two of them are going to be the best man and maid of honor, and they're going to have to work together to make this wedding work. And the thing about the wedding is that it's going quite wrong. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong. Like the venue goes up in flames, and the DJ calls it quits, and the flowers are not flowering, and the cake is not caking. Everything is just going wrong. So the two of them kind of make a pact that they want the wedding day to be the best day for the bride and groom, and they kind of join forces to try to make this wedding be a successful and beautiful wedding for their friends. So they have a lot of forced proximity because of this. They also strike up this friends with benefits situation because they still have amazing chemistry together, but they really, at least the heroine is really under the impression that it's going to be something physical. It's not going to go into relationship territory, because she really hasn't gotten over everything that has happened with him in the past. But yeah, they really have a lot to hash out, and they have a lot to resolve, and there is a lot of angst and tension and physical chemistry, and it just, all of the things that I love about a story are included in this story, and I really, really loved it. I really loved especially the last 30% of the book, because it wasn't like all is well, you know, now that we're having sex together again and we're just feeling it, everything is gonna be fine. No, they really try to work on resolving what was wrong in the first place. So I really love that about the book, and this is going to end up in one of my favorites. I was kind of anticipating it. I was hoping it was going to live up to my expectations, and it really did. Now, Kennedy Ryan has re-released her first written books. It's a series of books, and I had decided not to pick up the first and second book. I don't know why that was, honestly. I think that I read the synopsis for the first and second book because they're following one couple, and then I had decided to pick up the third book because it focuses on another character within the same world, and that book is Be Mine Forever. This book centers on a hero who has gone through it. He has been married, has divorced. Essentially, his ex-wife married his best friend. And we know already through the progression of this book what happened in book 1 and 2. And they also lost a child. So he is absolutely kind of devastated by what has happened in his past, and he's not ready for a relationship. He definitely feels very broken inside. And then there is this woman who has been in his past already since they were kids, I think, and she has been in love with him for forever, and she has been wanting to get with him for forever, and she has been patiently waiting for her chance. And now that he is divorced, they come across each other because she is, I think, the cousin of the hero from book 1. So they are essentially kind of family friends, and they come across each other a lot. So they have these instances where they get together and they do feel the chemistry between one another, but the hero is like, I need to stay away from her because I'm not good for her, and I know that she's in love with me, but this is going to end badly because I'm just not the person who can be in a relationship and be healthy, or in a healthy relationship. So essentially he has been fighting his attraction and feelings for her, but then eventually he relents, and they start on this journey of trying to heal him, essentially, so that he can be in the relationship that he deserves to be in. And obviously Kennedy Ryan, she is such a marvelous writer, and even though those are her first books that she released, I already feel how much she's working towards having this craft within her stories. There are certain things that I noticed that probably could have been flushed out a bit more, and the hero is very possessive and very alpha, and maybe that's because it was written in a time when that was really the thing. But essentially, yeah, I still really, really enjoyed the story. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read a really cute book that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. I gave this book 4 stars, and the book is called Off the Beaten Path by Madison, Wright. The book centers on a small town. It's a small town romance between a single dad and his neighbor. The heroine is someone who just recently bought a small cabin that she needs to renovate, but she essentially has spent all of her spendings to purchase the house, and she has very little to kind of make it habitable so that she can rent it out and start to make profit off of it. So she's really worried about how she's going to make do, because she has one chance to make this work. And the hero is someone who is, he's kind of like a contractor. He does renovations, and he's her neighbor. He has this girl at home. He used to be married to a woman who is very flighty, and she has kind of left them. So essentially he's divorced, and he's really struggling with giving his girl all that she needs, because she really needs her mom, and her mom is just not there, and she promises a lot of things to her daughter, but she never makes it. So he's heartbroken over that fact, and he kind of has focused only on his daughter, so he's not in it for a relationship. And the two of them are kind of, they bicker a lot. So he has done something that has kind of irked her, so she decides to get him back. She starts pranking him. He's kind of a grump about it. She's very sunshiny and very bubbly, and the two of them just have the best kind of banter. I really enjoyed their dynamic and how they went from kind of being neighbors who are pranking each other to people who really start to appreciate their individual situations and how they can help each other out. So yeah, I really enjoyed this story, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next up, I picked up a book by Karina Halle. I've read a couple of Karina Halle books before, and I've really enjoyed them, and I decided to pick up another one because Karina Halle has had a very difficult time because of a situation that happened through X, Twitter, I don't know what to call it anymore. And she has been very vocal about what happened on her Instagram. She has an official post about the whole situation, and everyone was asking her, how can we support you through it? And she just said, just promote and read my books. This is all I can ask from you, because it's my livelihood and this is how I make do. So if you read my books, that is help enough. So I decided to pick up this book. It's called A Ship of Bones and Teeth. It's one of her latest releases, something that is very suitable to pick up during summer. So I really love picking this up right now, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I think if you loved Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin, you might enjoy this one, though this one is not as dark as Sea of Ruin. It is a historical set fantasy romance that involves pirates and sirens and witches and a lot of interesting kind of creatures. There is a kraken in here, and there is enough spicy time also to kind of make it interesting and angsty, and I don't know, there's just so many good things about this book. I also don't want to forget to mention, I think this is kind of a loose retelling of Ariel, because the book starts with the heroine being a siren. She is 16 at the time, and she feels like she doesn't belong to her family because she is third in line. I think she's like a princess of her realm, but she's third in line, so she feels like she's being looked over. So she's like, I want to be someone else. I want to be a human, because she saw this Prince Eric and she falls in love with him, and she's like, I want to be a human. So she calls out to this witch who grants her her wish, but then takes something away from her as well. So she becomes a human and she marries Prince Eric. But the interesting thing is that the retelling goes into a different direction when we find out that Eric has grown into this horrible man and is mistreating her and is abusive towards her. And the hero, who is actually a pirate, is the savior within the story. So we've got a lot of interesting elements within this book. I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. So these were all the books that I managed to finish in the later part of August. I'm going to be traveling to Italy in a couple of days time, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to be reading a lot in September, but I'm going to see how it's gonna go. If I read a lot, I'm going to be posting 2 updates. If not, then I may leave it off for the end of the month. We're gonna wait out and see how that's gonna go. I am planning on releasing a video that focuses on the books that I've read by Karina Halle, so you can look out for that one in the next couple of days. And then I've got another couple of videos planned that I may just pre-film so that I can post them when I'm in Italy. We're gonna wait out and see if I'm organized enough to do that. But yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed doing this video where I talk about all of the books that I managed to finish in the month of August. Let me know if you enjoyed it as well. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned and whether you enjoy them as well. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.